There is a force that transforms intelligent people into accomplices of evil. It destroyed entire countries, corrupted family men, silenced spiritual leaders. And now, it may be controlling you. But the worst? It does not look like evil. It disguises itself as normality. It acts in silence. And it spreads like a virus, invisible. In this video, you will discover the most terrifying theory ever written about the human mind. A warning left by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a man who faced Nazism with the only weapons he had left: lucidity and truth. Prepare to understand why, according to Bonhoeffer, humanity's greatest enemy is not evil. It is stupidity. But not the stupidity you think. It is something much deeper, much more dangerous, and perhaps much more present in you than you would like to admit. Stay until the end, because once you understand this, you will never see the world the same way again. If topics like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe now to the channel. The stupidity that Bonhoeffer denounced was not an intellectual defect, but a moral infection, a condition of the soul that spreads like a virus, silently, without obvious symptoms, until it is too late. It does not manifest with screams or fanaticism at first sight. It whispers. It presents itself as common sense, as good intentions, as obedience. It contaminates the mind without causing pain, because it offers exactly what humans most desire in times of uncertainty: security, belonging, and the comfortable illusion of doing the right thing. It is in this environment of apparent normality that it settles and transforms ordinary citizens into unconscious agents of destruction. Think of an award-winning scientist publicly defending absurd ideas, a charismatic professor supporting hate speeches, a loving father putting his own children at risk, none of them driven by deliberate cruelty, none of them wishing evil, but all contaminated by this force Bonhoeffer called active stupidity, a form of moral blindness that does not come from lack of intelligence, but from the renunciation of critical thinking. They do not see themselves as part of the problem. On the contrary, they believe they are on the right side of history. And that is exactly why they are so dangerous. This stupidity does not manifest in isolated individuals, but in the fabric of the collective. It spreads through culture, media, institutions. It becomes an unwritten rule, automated morality, an accepted and praised behavioral standard. People do not act this way because they were forced. They act this way because everyone is acting this way. Right and wrong are no longer defined by conscience, but by repetition. And when thought becomes a mirror of others' narratives, the mind ceases to be a tool of discernment and becomes only a resonance box. Bonhoeffer realized that when an entire society stops thinking critically, no more tyrants or explicit dictators are needed. Stupidity fulfills that role. It prevents debate before it even starts. It transforms doubt into offense, divergence into threat, and silence into complicity. The infection is so effective that victims themselves begin to defend the ideas that oppress them. They believe they are doing good, when in fact they are perpetuating evil, an evil that no longer needs justification because it is sustained by an anesthetized crowd. What Bonhoeffer revealed to us is that this form of stupidity is more fearsome than open wickedness, because wickedness can be faced, denounced, fought with arguments, resistance, force. But against organized stupidity, no argument works. It is impermeable to logic, evidence, ethical appeal. It does not listen, reflect, reconsider. It only reacts, repeats, obeys. And when this becomes the norm, when the infection reaches a critical number of people, evil no longer needs to hide. It parades through the streets, applauded. And no one notices, because everyone believes they are doing good. The stupidity described by Bonhoeffer is not a biological accident or an individual cognitive problem. It is a systemic phenomenon, built methodically, fed by interests, and sustained by institutions. It does not emerge from nowhere. It is shaped, cultivated, and rewarded by structures that need mediocrity to maintain order. Because thinking is dangerous, questioning causes instability, doubting slows the gear. So the system, any system, needs individuals who do not think too much. It needs people who obey, consume, vote, and get outraged only within permitted limits. The key to this functioning lies in one of the greatest illusions of the modern world, that having an opinion is the same as thinking. People believe they are conscious simply because they have a ready-made speech. But what they call thought is, most of the time, just an echo of a narrative they did not build, only adopted. Whether a TV host, a charismatic influencer, or an algorithm, someone put that idea there, and now it repeats. Systemic stupidity begins when the origin of ideas stops mattering, and the comfort of having them ready becomes more valuable than the truth. And this is the perverse genius of functional stupidity. It does not look like stupidity. It disguises itself as social consciousness, common sense, normality. It hides in cliches, politically correct speeches, hashtags no one dares question. It infiltrates textbooks, entertainment programs, bar conversations. It is not that someone consciously controls everything, but the entire system has already been programmed to reinforce intellectual passivity. Thinking becomes a radical act. Deep reflection becomes synonymous with arrogance. And the result is a society that rewards superficiality and marginalizes lucidity. Thus, stupidity ceases to be an individual flaw and becomes a successful social model. The ideal employee does not think. The ideal consumer does not question. The ideal voter reacts with emotion, not reason. This gear must turn without resistance. And what resists must be discarded, censored, or ridiculed. This pressure does not come from above, but from all sides, from the group, the environment, the culture. Moral judgment is based not on right or wrong, but on what everyone is doing. And when everyone thinks alike, no one is really thinking. Bonhoeffer saw this with frightening clarity. He saw that systemic stupidity was the most efficient way to create obedient citizens in any regime, democratic, authoritarian, or corporate, because it does not need explicit repression. It only needs conformity, unquestioned routines, a mass that believes it is informed, but only consumes pre-digested versions of reality. And that is exactly where the danger lies. When stupidity is no longer seen as a problem, but as a social virtue. When obeying, repeating, and fitting in become synonyms of morality, and thinking, doubting, and disagreeing become crimes. Every power system, to remain stable, needs a specific type of human being, someone predictable, obedient, and easily replaceable. Someone who functions as a gearpiece without asking questions about the machine's meaning. This ideal citizen is not born this way, he is molded. And the raw material of this construction is collective stupidity. Not the stupidity of the ignorant, but that of the conformist, of those who follow orders without understanding, of those who repeat ideas without examining, of those who consume ideologies like products, packaged, ready, with seductive slogans. This kind of stupidity is functional because it preserves order. It prevents ruptures, deep disagreements, crises of conscience. A citizen who thinks deeply is a threat. He may refuse to obey. He may leave the line. He may slow down production. He may vote unpredictably. He may simply say no. And that no, in a world that demands efficiency and control, is a problem. The system does not need free men. It needs men who believe they are free but act exactly as expected. Stupidity, in this context, does not hinder. It lubricates the gears of power. That is why blind obedience is often disguised as virtue. The media exalts the good citizen, the one who complies, who agrees, who gets outraged at the right moments and stays silent at the right moments. Traditional education rewards those who memorize, not those who question. And culture turns rebels into jokes, thinkers into elitists, dissidents into lunatics. It has created an environment where critical awareness is antisocial, a nuisance, a destabilizing element. Thus, the ideal citizen is not only stupid, he is proud of it. He believes he is right. He believes he is on the good side. And that is why he is even more dangerous. The ideal citizen for power does not need coercion. He self-censors. He adapts to the group. He watches others and himself in the name of dominant morality. And when he sees someone disagree, he points fingers. He cancels. He denounces. He thinks he is saving society, when in fact he is keeping the system running exactly as designed. He does not question the gear. He merges with it. His mind becomes the collective's property. His individuality is sacrificed in exchange for the feeling of belonging. The illusion of consciousness replaces real consciousness. Bonhoeffer understood that the real nightmare was not a tyrannical government, but an entire society that no longer needed to be oppressed, because it had already become a collaborator of oppression. When most people become vigilantes of others' thoughts, defenders of inherited ideas, involuntary promoters of manipulated narratives, it is no longer necessary to suppress freedom. It is already dead. The ideal citizen has already been created, and he believes he is awake, when in fact, he is dreaming someone else's dream. A dream that keeps him useful, controllable, and convinced of his virtue. In the Nazi prison where he spent his last days, Dietrich Bonhoeffer understood a disturbing truth. The most effective evil does not need to be aggressive. It only needs to be obedient. The image we have of evil is often distorted. We think of conscious villains, demonized figures. But Bonhoeffer saw something else. He saw evil being carried out by good people, ordinary people, teachers, religious figures, mothers, kind neighbors, all following orders, repeating ideas, obeying rules. Not with hatred, but with conviction. Not with pleasure, but with certainty. And it is this certainty without reflection that makes obedience so dangerous. Blind obedience is the ideal environment for functional stupidity to flourish. When an individual renounces their own conscience in the name of an authority, whether a political leader, an institution, an ideology, they become an instrument, no longer a moral agent. They do not weigh the consequences of what they do. They just comply. They just participate. And when questioned, they respond with pre-programmed phrases. I was just following orders. That is what I was taught. That is what everyone is doing. Responsibility disappears. And evil finds fertile ground because no one feels guilty for anything anymore. Bonhoeffer wrote, "Against evil, we can protest. Against stupidity, we are defenseless." Because stupidity, when coupled with obedience, does not respond to arguments, does not surrender to evidence, is not shaken by consequences. It operates with deaf conviction. And this conviction is exactly what makes it unbreakable. The individual, taken by this mentality, believes they are doing good, believes they are serving a higher purpose. And because of this, they persecute those who think differently, denounce those who question, marginalize those who dare to disbelieve the dominant narrative. They become a soldier of causes they do not understand, but defend with fervor. And the most frightening thing is that within this logic, obedience is not only tolerated, it is celebrated. The obedient are seen as exemplary citizens, the doubters as arrogant, the silent as prudent, and the thinkers as dangerous. Thus, morality is inverted. Virtue becomes submission. Heroism becomes following orders without hesitation. And questioning becomes disloyalty, heresy, insanity. Bonhoeffer saw this inversion happen before his eyes, not as an exception, but as the rule. This is the essence of blind obedience. It deactivates the intellect, suspends ethics, and installs stupidity as social norm. And the most devastating part is that it does not act as an oppressive force, but as an internal structure. It does not need guards, it needs acceptance. It does not need shouts, it needs silence. Absolute power is not born with weapons. It is born with individuals who voluntarily surrender their own conscience in exchange for security, comfort, or approval. And that is where obedience becomes fatal, when thinking is seen as rebellion and not thinking as virtue. The most frightening type of stupidity is not the one that is ashamed, but the one that shows off. That flaunts titles, speaks with confidence, delivers eloquent speeches, and wins applause. Bonhoeffer noticed, even in the 1940s, a phenomenon that today reaches alarming proportions: intelligence without moral conscience. The use of reasoning not as an investigative tool, but as an instrument of justification. Intelligent people who put their intellect at the service of ideas they never deeply examined, inherited, delivered unquestioned ideas. And the more articulate these people are, the more dangerous what they defend becomes, because they know how to convince. Here, functional stupidity reveals its most refined form. It does not have to be ignorant. On the contrary, it may come dressed in erudition. It may write columns. It may give lectures. It may use selective logic, biased data, sophisticated jargon. But deep down, there is no real thought, only sophisticated repetition. The mind thinks, but does not doubt, speaks, but does not interrogate, defends, but does not contemplate the possibility of being wrong. And the more resonance this person receives, likes, followers, awards, recognition, the more their blind conviction crystallizes. This form of stupidity is celebrated because it fits perfectly in the logic of the modern world. It is functional, predictable, engaged. It does not bother the system, it feeds it. It is the type of person who believes they are fighting for good, justice, truth, but does not realize their words have already been shaped by ideological, emotional, or technological filters. Their thought has been colonized. Their reason has been programmed. And the most dangerous part, they do not realize it. Because pride does not allow it. And because society rewards it, what should be an alarm becomes status. Bonhoeffer saw all this happening in real time. Doctors defending inhuman experiments. Teachers teaching murderous doctrines. Citizens denouncing their own neighbors, not out of hatred, not out of cruelty, but out of blind pride. They did not just obey, they were proud of their obedience. They thought they were on the right side of history. And this conviction, fed by applause and social approval, is the most impenetrable of all, because there is no room for doubt. And without doubt, there is no thought. This is the final stage of functional stupidity, when it no longer needs to hide, when it is seen as wisdom, when it is applauded on stages, promoted on networks, taught in schools, when the stupid feels wise, when the void is filled with arrogance, when alienation is confused with consciousness, and when, finally, the entire society begins to organize not around truth, but around the performance of truth. Bonhoeffer understood. The problem is not just that people stop thinking. It is that they come to believe they are thinking, while only repeating. Thinking, truly, has always had a price, but it has never been as high as now. Because, in the age of massive distraction and programmed outrage, thinking is no longer just difficult, it is dangerous. It is not enough to have ideas. It is necessary to bear the burden of not fitting in, of not repeating what everyone is saying, of not applauding the heroes of the moment, of not following the crowd. And the current world, saturated with voices and noise, does not tolerate those who pause to reflect. Those who stop to contemplate are seen as arrogant. Those who doubt are treated as threats. Those who do not shout along are accused of being insensitive. Modern society rewards quick reactions, superficial certainty, instant judgment, and punishes slow, deep, complex thinking. Because thinking requires stopping. It requires confronting contradictions. It requires admitting ignorance. Thinking is disarming yourself, and that is unbearable in a time when everyone wants to seem invulnerable. Real thinking does not deliver easy certainties. It dismantles certainties. It deconstructs narratives. It bothers. And for that reason, those who think become increasingly lonely, misunderstood, and disposable. Bonhoeffer knew this. He knew that deep thinking does not generate applause. It generates persecution. He knew lucidity isolates, that truth hurts, that keeping consciousness alive in an anesthetized world is an act of resistance, but it is also an act of sacrifice. The thinker does not fit in any group. He does not belong to any fixed ideology. He has no fans. He is not useful to any propaganda. And precisely for that reason, he becomes dangerous. Because he is free. And freedom, in this world of algorithms and doctrines, is the last unacceptable crime. Thinking demands a price. The constant discomfort of not knowing if you are right. The anguish of realizing that perhaps the majority is wrong. And the burden of carrying doubt as a faithful companion. It is easier to live anesthetized, easier to shout along, easier to hate the same enemies everyone hates, easier to follow the script. But Bonhoeffer showed us that ease demands another price. And that price is fatal, because renouncing thought is renouncing yourself. It is giving up your own autonomy. It is handing your own judgment into the hands of someone you do not even know, or worse, someone who knows exactly how to manipulate you. Therefore, thinking is a risk of losing acceptance, being ridiculed, being attacked. But it is also the only path to avoid being swallowed by the machinery. Bonhoeffer paid with his own life for not giving up lucidity. He was executed weeks before the end of the war, not because he hated his country, but because he refused to stop thinking. And today, decades later, the same choice faces us. Either we become one more predictable piece in the theater of stupidity, or we accept the burden and the glory of thinking, even if it costs us everything. The stupidity Bonhoeffer identified in the last century today not only survives, it has been perfected. It no longer needs military boots or concentration camps. Now, it disguises itself as freedom, presents itself with modern design, soft voice, and pleasant interfaces. Technology learned to manipulate without forcing. Digital platforms monitor our clicks, emotions, and behavior patterns. They do not tell us what to think. They only deliver what we already want to hear in an infinite cycle of confirmation. They do not directly censor. They just make invisible everything that challenges our comfort. And thus, they create perfect bubbles where critical thinking never bothers again. The media, in turn, stopped informing to form. But not to form citizens, to form opinions. Plurality is staged with tone variations, but never content. The dominant narrative changes clothes, but keeps the same direction. Journalists no longer ask, they instruct. Language is shaped to provoke controlled outrage, to generate the illusion of engagement. The citizen believes they are politicized, but they are only reacting within the tracks given to them. The spectacle of information steals time for reflection. And with that, haste becomes the new morality. Those who think slowly are out of the game. In education, the problem deepens. Schools no longer form thinkers, they form system employees. Children learn to repeat, to memorize, to obey. They are trained to answer tests, not to ask questions. Intelligence is measured in numbers. Doubt is punished with low grades. And fear of failure becomes fear of thinking differently. Critical thinking is mentioned in pedagogical speeches, but rarely practiced in the classroom, because thinking is hard work. And the system needs efficiency, not reflection. A questioning student is a delay. An automatic repeater is a success. Popular culture completes this scenario perfectly. Movies, music, series, and social networks offer immediate relief, but suffocate the silence necessary to think. Everything needs to be fast, exciting, easy to digest. Complexity was replaced by constant stimulus, and deep thinking became obsolete or worse, offensive. Disagreeing became a crime. Ambiguity became weakness, and entertainment became anesthesia. The result is a society that not only stopped thinking, but believes thinking is dangerous, elitist, unnecessary. And when a society reaches this point, control no longer needs to be imposed. It has already been accepted. These two videos in front of you are not here by chance. And if everything you believe about yourself is only a reflection of someone else's gaze, click now on one of the videos beside and start breaking this mirror. You will have to risk the click. So, which one will you choose?